Constitution requires that districts be compact, but Illinois engages in extreme gerrymandering, which undermines representative government and consolidates power for the Cook County political machine to continue its domination. Our districts are shaped like snakes, dinosaurs, and earmuffs. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that partisan gerrymandering violates the 14th Amendment if it, quote, consistently degrades a voter or a group of voters' influence in the political process as a whole. Our district maps have consistently degraded the influence of residents outside of Cook County. Tyranny is often led by incompetent leaders. Here's some examples. Illinois' leaders have amassed enormous debt, burdened us with outrageously high taxes, and has the worst financial health in the nation. They've created a dysfunctional unemployment system. When 1 million people were out of work last summer, they were answering a whopping 2,000 calls a day. Again, Illinois' leaders have failed in their first responsibility, which is to provide representative government to its citizens. Tyranny also seeks to infringe on rights. Among other things, our state government seeks to infringe on the conscience rights of healthcare workers and infringe on Second Amendment rights. State government imposes laws on us that are in the best interest of a densely populated, major urban area like Chicago, but not the rest of the state. Sometimes it seems like we're not just two different states, but we're two different planets. And even though we're not a Second Amendment group, we use that as an illustration of how the different parts of the state are so different. You know, you live close enough to Chicago, you hear the body count on Monday morning on the news radio. But you talk to some elderly person down in southern Illinois and they'll say, well, I had to shoot that wild dog, it was attacking my horse, you know? So we live in different worlds, and I'm not saying that Chicago, I'm not condoning their infringement on the Second Amendment. I'm just saying in many, many ways we are very different places. So a tyrannical government's unfair. We've already established that certain people, groups, and municipalities have disproportionate power in the state. The government isn't operating in the best interests of the people. Now, is this smiling, friendly-looking dude a tyrant? Well, is he incompetent? Is he going outside the law? Is he infringing on our constitutional rights? Let's take a look. A lot has been revealed with the pandemic. So first, does he go outside the law? Well, the Illinois Emergency Management Act gave him emergency executive power for 30 days. His 30 days were over last April of last year. According to Governor Pritzker and AG Kwame Raoul, these orders can be extended indefinitely, and they recently issued 16. And, you know, it's so pitiful because he was given 30 days max. Why? Not to become a dictator, but so that he could hold things together while the state legislature addressed the problem.
So they didn't?
Huh?
Which they didn't?
No, and they didn't meet for months and months. So, next, is he incompetent? Well, initially he tailored policies for an urban environment and imposed it on the whole state, including rural areas that had no cases of COVID. Other states cut public sector pay. Here they got raises. Other states cut spending and froze hiring early on, but not here. And last year, the U.S. Department of Labor offered to help Illinois with its dysfunctional unemployment system, but our governor refused the help. So,
We're the only state to borrow money from the
so does he infringe on our constitutional rights? The U.S. Department of Justice filed an amicus brief stating there's a strong case that the governor exceeded his authority and this raises significant constitutional concerns. The governor and the State Department of Public Health do not have the lawful authority to suspend the Bill of Rights. The governor may not make criminal the exercise of constitutionally protected rights. One Illinois judge stated that Governor Pritzker's executive orders were not laws, they were royal decrees, and that Illinois citizens were not being governed, they were being ruled. So, let's talk a little bit about the process. There's 4 organizational steps to the process of forming a new state, followed by 2 legislative steps. First, we established county committees. We currently have them operating in 26 counties and forming in several others. County committees carry out our mission locally by educating and spreading the word, and also they create an organizational infrastructure for the new state in development. County committees are key. We need more people to get involved and to bring this process forward. The second step was to issue a Declaration of Independence. We did that on October 17th of 2020. Not that we thought we were a separate state. Right after we did that, our founding fathers had the Declaration of Independence, and then they had to fight with England for another 8 years. We're currently at step 3, publishing grievances against the state of Illinois. Now, the founders put a list of 27 grievances in the Declaration. They were short, couple of sentences. 244 years later, we really couldn't do that. And so, unless we wanted to be reading an encyclopedia. So, what we're doing is releasing grievances regularly. We just released number 7, which was about the Second Amendment. One of the grievances we're working on now concerns ballot access for third-party and independent candidates. Illinois is, I don't have to tell you guys this, it's one of the worst states in the country for keeping people off the ballot. And in fact, I had a nice conversation with William Redpath today because I'm not an expert at this. I just knew we have a couple of county chairmen that are also office holders in the Libertarian Party. So I knew that Libertarians had to get a lot more signatures. But until I started getting into this and talking to Bill Redpath, it was like my head was going to explode. Just going to the Illinois Board of Elections website, it was like entering the twilight zone. And so,
And welcome to our world.
wow, man, this is just wrong. I mean, I'm not a libertarian. I don't belong to any party, but this is like so disgusting. It's like, what's another way we can take away representative government from the people of Illinois? How about that? So, and then the next step is that we are going to soon begin preliminary sessions of a constitutional convention for a new state.
How many county committees do you have?
We have 26 with more in the queue. And then the process.
And how many do you need?
What?
How many do you need?
Well, once we had 20, we did our declaration.
Okay.
Our goal is to have one in every county. And we do have one in Cook County. Justin Tucker from the Libertarian Party is our chairman. Yeah. And he's a cool dude. Anyway, and so, yeah, because there's people in the city that recognize that they are different and they should be separate, but there's also people like my liberal daughter who lives in Chicago that realizes we're being deprived of representative government, and that's wrong. So anyway, the process legislatively is to obtain the consent of the state legislature, obtain the consent of the Congress, and neither the governor of Illinois nor the Illinois courts have a role in this process. Now, the resolution for a new state was introduced in 2018 with 3 co-sponsors. In 2019, it was reintroduced with 7 co-sponsors. It's recently been updated and refiled, so this summer what we're going to be doing is calling on a lot of state legislators to ask them to support it. And we believe that they will start jumping on board when the citizens of their district make it clear that their right to representation has been violated. Now, here's something interesting. There is another state split group in the state of Illinois. They're called Illinois Separation. What they're doing is just going around to counties, putting an advisory referendum on county ballots about a state split. And it was on 25 counties ballots in the past year. In each one, it passed by a landslide of 69 to 83% of the vote. And so I'm thinking, those state reps are gonna be easy pickings because their people have made it very clear
That's
what they want.
Yeah.
And so what's also interesting is that our counties where we have committees and their counties where they had the referendum, there's very little overlap in those counties. So we're looking at 45 counties in Illinois that have an active state split movement.
Many of those may be Second Amendment sanctuary places too.
I think there's a lot of overlap there as well, yeah. And so, people sometimes will say, well, it's impossible, you'll never get the Illinois State Legislature to pass this. Well, they passed an almost identical resolution in 1981. So, we just think what we need to do, and what Justin is doing effectively, I think, in Cook County, is presenting it as a win-win situation. You know, make your socialist utopia, we won't stand in your way.
Right.
And so he recently spoke before what's called the College of Complexes. It's a free speech forum.
That's
And,
a communist organization.
but I was amazed because he was so well received. In fact, one commie guy that was one of the guys that runs it, he said, I think I scored this. So, woohoo! So the next steps are the inauguration of executive, legislative, and judicial branches of a transitional government, followed by elections for a new state government. Our vision as an organization is of a new state free from a tyrannical form of government where residents will be able to experience a government representing their constitutional rights. We take a lot of inspiration from the Solidarity movement in Poland. They had been under communist rule for 40 years, and then one day a dude, an electrician in the shipyard, decided he'd had enough. And the people caught that vision and supported the movement, and amazingly, they were able to free themselves from a communist government without a civil war. The Declaration of Independence declares that people are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights and can alter or abolish a government destructive of those rights. We believe the situation in Illinois has reached this point. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Who would write the Constitution of?
Well, what we're doing, we have, I'm sorry, what?
I'm gonna go.
Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.
It was nice to meet you all.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. You keep up the good work. We'll be in touch.
Come back.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, we have county committees. Within the county committees, it's just like any other nonprofit. You have your chair, vice chair, secretary, director. What do you bother you? No.
Yes.
Yes, okay. We don't have any money, so I don't keep track of it. So then we also have one person that's a representative to our state organization, and then we elect 2 assembly members and 1 senator, and they are people that at the Constitutional Convention will participate in writing the Constitution. And so when you become a state, when you're approved by Congress, they will mandate that you write an official Constitution, but this is something to do ahead of time to get your ducks in a row. What we look at is to have something that's going to have the kind of safeguards in it against corruption that, you know, just based on our experience of being residents of Illinois, there's a lot of stuff that you can put in a Constitution that will prevent this from happening again. Because people, sometimes they say, oh, what are you going to do to keep these people from Chicago from moving? Well, you can't keep people from moving anywhere.
Right.
We're Americans,
Right, yeah.
but you can be prepared ahead of time. And so,
Have no legal. What would be the name of the new state? Is it gonna just be New Illinois or
West Illinois.
West Illinois?
actually,
South
I
Illinois?
think New Illinois is a perfectly fine
That's-
name.
that's what I was thinking.
However, no, that's the name of our nonprofit organization.
Yeah.
Now, about 3 years ago, when our mailing list was much smaller, we sent out a survey and we asked for suggestions, what people would name the new state if it came into being. And there were a lot of good suggestions, and not for Tony, but a lot of people in Southern Illinois, they want it to be Southern Illinois. Frankly, I don't care that I live 9 miles from Wisconsin. I'd be happy to be part of Southern Illinois. And so,
Kinda neat, yeah.
I think that what we would envision is, when it comes to that point, have a poll, a survey or whatever,
Right.
and say, what are nominations for the name of the state, and let the people decide.
What are the 4 states that have already done this in the past?
See, Maine, Kentucky, Vermont, and West Virginia.
Yeah, West Virginia during the Civil War.
And when were those?
And who did they separate
They were
from?
about like
I know West Virginia was part of Virginia.
Right,
and then-
Vermont separated from New York.
Yes, and Maine separated from
Massachusetts,
Massachusetts.
right, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and you know, each case is a little bit different. West Virginia, well, Virginia was leaving the Union, and they weren't really on board with it. So they had to do kind of a workaround.
Maryland was leaving the Union too,
Pardon?
until, Maryland was leaving the Union too, until Lincoln sent troops to shut down the Capitol.
Yeah. So we're not inventing anything new.
No, you're just applying a necessary remedy, it seems.
Kind of interesting, maybe you have some communications, I think that's going on in Oregon and Washington State, eastern counties.
Yeah,
Anyone
actually,
can go to Idaho.
yeah, we actually have a close relationship with New California.
New
Because
California?
when this organization was started by me and a guy named Jeff who lives in Woodstock, and we were like, okay, how do you do this? We don't know anything about
Yeah.
how this process is done, and we'd seen different things in the news. And so I called up New California because I had heard of them issuing a Declaration of Independence, and I'm glad that I did, because they had constitutional lawyers helping them. And so a lot of our materials, all we had to do is adapt them for our state, and they mentored us for quite a while. And so they're, you know, doing this whole Article 4, Section 3 process. There's other groups in California that have tried to separate into 3 parts or 6 parts by referendum, and that's gotten thrown off the ballot because that's not the constitutional way to start a new state. And so then there's something, Nevada has the same kind of process going on. People in New York, there's like 3 different groups, and they have different options because of their state constitution. But when you talk about Oregon, this is kind of a weird story. There is a group called, well, they keep changing their name, Peaceful Red State Solution, Peaceful Blue State Solution, and I thought, what's up with them? Because they were kind of infiltrating all the state split groups, and then I found out later that it's believed that they're funded by George Soros, and I did find out from them, they had this plan for Illinois. They don't even live in Illinois, and their real plan is to divide the country into 2 countries. And so early on, Oregon's movement was infiltrated by those people. And so the problem with them is they would tell people, hey, just move your state line, because then you don't have to get the approval of Congress. It's easier. Well, no, they actually do. I read up in law review articles about this. If you have like some little peninsula jutting out somewhere, yeah, the states can handle it themselves. You don't need to go to Congress for that. But when you're talking about a significant chunk of property, counties, you do. And so in seeing recent stuff from them, they've caught on to the fact that they do have to have the approval of Congress. And that's actually, what they're doing is more complicated, because they have to have 2 state legislatures approve of what they're doing.
Right.
And so there's an effort like that in Minnesota to join South Dakota.
Okay.
There's an effort, and I have talked to the guy in Colorado. It's just Weld County, Colorado, wants to be part of Wyoming,
Wyoming, yeah.
and there's a couple other counties that have been talking to him. But the difference is, the governor of Idaho says, I understand why they want to be part of Idaho. But he doesn't say, yeah, come on in. Whereas the governor of Wyoming said, we welcome you with open arms. I was on a Zoom call with people in Virginia who have been invited by the governor of Virginia to join West Virginia. And that, again, is a little different situation because they used to be part of the same state.
Yeah.
And so, it's happening in a lot of places, but people sometimes say, well, if you're serious about this, why don't you look into that strategy? And here's the problem. Illinois has $300 billion in debt.
Right.
Indiana has a $1 billion surplus.
Surplus.
So you take some of these eastern counties and say, you want them to join Indiana and take their portion of the evil dowry with them?
Yeah, right. No.
Nobody, all of the surrounding states are in a much better financial position than us. They'd be out of their
They'll
minds.
take our people,
Oh, that's what they're
especially
doing.
because it's all the productive people that are leaving, so.
Yep, yep, so that's why that would never be an option for those.
So how's Nevada one separate?
Well,
Vegas
in
and the rest?
Nevada, the same thing is they have one county around Las Vegas that dominates the whole state. And so they started the same movement, and the guy heading that up was a constitutional lawyer.
I didn't know Reno was powerful up here.
Yeah.
I don't know, I haven't been to Nevada in a very long time, so. But
Thank you. I have to go to
great to
work.
meet you. So I hope we can talk soon and then you can march in our parade.
Oh, sounds good.
Thank you,
Thank you for coming.
Oh, you're welcome, you're
Thank you for
welcome.
coming.
So, any other questions?
Come John.
He's very comprehensive.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, I feel excited about something like that, you know,
You know,
because
it
it's
was-
possible. I think it is possible. A
The
lot of work,
steps
a lot of
make
work.
it seem possible,
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Well, and you know, sometimes like, well, I don't want to sound partisan because we're a nonpartisan group. I don't belong to a political party. But really, I think sometimes progressive people, they just don't want to hear the facts. You know what I mean? They'll just say, oh, well, you know, that'll never work, okay? Tell me why, you know? But,
Well, if this happened, wouldn't this give Republicans 2 additional senators?
okay, this is how that, because people often say, oh, they'll never let you do it because of the extra senators. Well, if you look back before the Civil War, they started having states under the Union in pairs, a slave state and a free state. And even up to the time when Alaska and Hawaii entered the Union in 59 and 60, one was red and one was blue. Of course, they've reversed since then, but it was to not upset the balance of power. So we have always looked at, and law professors have commented on this, that places like New Illinois or New California would enter with a place like Puerto Rico. Now, I find it very disturbing that the new administration or people in government are pushing to have Puerto Rico and DC enter states together, so they obviously don't care about the balance of power in a good way. And also, in DC, in order for them to enter the Union, you would have to have a constitutional amendment because it's mandated in the Constitution.
Right, yeah.
So, but that, under normal circumstances, it would be you pair it off so that you don't. So that.
But two in at one time.
Yeah, so old Illinois would consist of Chicago and whatever parts of the state wanted to stay with them, which I believe would be most of Cook County. There's a fringe of communities that have tried to escape from Cook County. in
Would
the
that be
last-
established by vote as well?
Well,
New Illinois and all?
I think, yeah, I think that they would probably want some sort of referendum, but they wouldn't need a vote, you know, downstate because it's already been taken. But I think like in Lake County where I live, Western Lake County is suburban and rural, not densely populated, and but the southwest corner of the county has become very blue. And so I don't.
Barrington.
No, Barrington is still.
It's still pretty red.
Yeah, it's on the western part of the county.
That's-
And so if I'm talking about like Highland Park, Deerfield,
Oh, okay, yeah,
Julie
yeah.
Morrison's Senate District, she's like one of the people who wants to confiscate firearms. And so I think they would not be interested in us. I
Yeah.
don't think Waukegan and North Chicago would, because they're very, it's like, we are nonpartisan, but then there is reality over here that deep blue areas are not gonna be interested in this.
Right, right.
And so they may support our ability to do this,
Mhm.
but they wouldn't, I think, wanna come along. And so,
Would it be contiguous? Would you have,
you wouldn't have
would
to
you have
be.
Waukegan different, separated?
As I look at the township map and how people go, it would be possible to have it all be contiguous. And, so, it just remains to be seen, but I don't think it has to be, just like Hawaii is separate islands. And, in Alaska, it's not contiguous to the other United States. So, but I think there's a lot of places downstate, like in some statewide elections, you see it's Cook County votes one way and everybody else votes the other way. There's pockets, and I think part of it is that university students vote locally instead of in their permanent address.
Right,
area.
right.
And so, it's just some of these things, you just wait and see what happens. I think a place like Lake County, you probably end up going township by township.
Right.
Interesting. What about like Will County, Kane County, and wouldn't some of those places be? in some-
I think that would be similar. We do have committees in all the college counties. And I don't know, I guess you guys are considered collar county.
Yes.
We are.
You are?
Still.
Okay, well, we have people that have said they want to start a committee, but we haven't started it yet.
Okay.
So if you are interested.
There you go, guys.
People get pushback from like regional agreements, especially in the collar counties, like transportation stuff, I think.
I think, that's the kind of thing that you can work it out. One person was trying to go, well, what about the people that get the Lake Michigan water? You work it out. Czechoslovakia used to be one country.
Yeah.
And then after they threw off communism, a few years later, they had some of the same kind of similar things that we have. They were different cultures, different economies, and they split apart, and now Slovakia used to be economically depressed compared to the Czech Republic.
Right.
And over the years, they,
They
got,
pretty come out,
yeah, they're very even. So,
Another example is Singapore.
Yeah.
It's part of Malaysia, which.
Right, yeah.
So I think that things can be daunting tasks, but they're not impossible, and I'm sure that there were a lot of naysayers back in colonial times with, a third of the people wanted to independence, a third of them
Wanted to stay with the crown, and a third
and
like,
didn't just wanted to duck.
They're a wanted mutton.
Yeah, so,
Well,
those are
there's always a bunch of
things.
sheep.
Huh?
There's always a bunch of sheep.
Yeah, so,
They'll do whatever the government says.
yeah.
Especially if those stimmy checks.
Oh, yeah, I
So
heard
you have
them the other night.
You have a chapter in Kane County?
Yes, we do. Are you in the Kane County group?
I went to one of their meetings, but I'd like to get plugged back in with them.
Yeah, I think, you know what happened?
I'm not sure.
What was that?
He asked if it was Fox Valley, but
I don't know. But the chairman there, he's gone through a lot of things. Like his father died, same week his father died, he broke his leg, and he's taking care of his 90-year-old mother. So things are finally starting to settle down for him. And so I think I'm gonna help him try and get the group back together. There was one lady who was former military that she was really on board, and then I don't know, I think she had some PTSD thing and kind of.
So you could help keep the band back together.
well, I was gonna ask, what can I do to help this, help keep pushing this ball going?
Yeah. Let's talk on the phone, because I know there's another guy that has called and wanted to get involved, and the meeting wasn't on a nice and naked, but it's like, Okay?
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's talk.
Okay. You still have my contact info?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.